If you have ever used VARCHAR 255 as a data type for as many string columns as possible in your database design, you're not alone. But you might be designing a database that performs 10 times worse than it needs to be. Choosing a string data type is like picking the right box for shipping. Too small, your data gets cut off. Too big, you will waste space and money. In this video, I'll show you how to choose the right string data type for string columns in database design. We will cover 3 most commonly used string data types in this video. Let's get started. So data type selection. Data type selection is a task that you take on once you have identified all the entities, attributes, and the primary keys for each entity. Imagine that you're working towards designing a database for an online store named the Sci-Fi Collective, and you have identified all the entities, attributes, and the primary keys. Your next step will be to select the right data type for each column. To do this task right, you need to pick up some knowledge about data types first. And you will start with string data types. The most commonly used string data types are these 3 as listed here on the screen: CHAR, VARCHAR, and text. CHAR is short for character, and VARCHAR is short for variable character. As a data type, CHAR is used to store strings of a fixed length. VARCHAR is used to store variable length strings with a known length, and text is used to store highly variable strings with unknown length limit. Assuming that you are very familiar with string data types and know all the details beyond what is shown to you so far, the task of data type selection is basically to identify a string attribute and then pick the right string data type for it based on the requirements you gathered. Now, let's look at each of the string data type more closely, starting with CHAR. CHAR stores strings of a fixed length, as you can see here from this example. If you have a column representing code of states in US, each code will be exactly 2 characters long, and you will use CHAR2 to represent its size. The 2 that is wrapped up in the bracket indicates that this column will occupy exactly 2 bytes. So when should you consider CHAR as a column data type? When the data of a column are all strings of fixed and uniform lengths, like country code, currency code, airport code, or even language code. When you have a column that has this feature, you should think about assigning CHAR as its data type. For example, this is the product table for the Sci-Fi Collective database. The primary key code stores the universal product code of different products being sold by the store, and each code has the exact length of 12 characters. As a result, you can declare its data type as CHAR12, where 12 indicates its fixed length. You will put this data type at the right side of the corresponding column. For another example, the payment method entity represents different payment methods in the Sci-Fi Collective database. For all the credit and debit cards as payment methods, their card number have the same digits, which is 16. Beyond that, their expiration dates all have 4 digits. So it's safe to declare their data types as CHAR and assign CHAR16 to the card number attribute and CHAR4 to the expiry date attribute. As curious as you are, you may wonder if card numbers and expiration dates should be numbers instead of strings. A good rule of thumb is whether you need to perform calculations on those numbers. If not, they had better stay as strings. If you declare their data types as numbers, you may have to deal with many inconveniences, like leading zeros. Another question you may have is why going with VARCHAR, the variable character string, is a bad choice here for attributes like card numbers or product code. Well, VARCHAR 255 certainly would work in this case for all the 3 attributes in both entities. However, if you do so, you risk wasting space and money. On average, CHAR is 20% faster than VARCHAR. Plus, you will waste some extra space by using VARCHAR here, and that would cost you millions of dollars if the database is used in a highly scalable environment where millions of users are involved. The next string data type you will take a closer look is VARCHAR. VARCHAR attributes store variable length strings with a maximum length specified. As you can see from this example column, it's named names with some sample data shown up here on the screen. VARCHAR 30, as the data type for this column, specifies the maximum length of data in this attribute as 30. Each data point comes with a different length, like Bob has a length of 3, and Jigglypuff has a length of 10. If it is actually running a database system, Bob will occupy 4 bytes because VARCHAR needs to store the actual data length in addition to its actual length. The same can be said for Jigglypuff, which will take 11 bytes. So when should you consider using VARCHAR as the data type for some columns? When you need to store variable length text data, but the maximum length is reasonable and easy to estimate. For example, the user entity from the Sci-Fi Collective database has quite a few attributes that can use the help from VARCHAR data types, like email. Different email addresses come with different lengths, but the maximum length of an arbitrary email address is 320 characters based on the RFC standards. If you don't know that, it's totally fine. This is where generative AI tools can offer a lot of help. The same can be said for common first names. Its length may vary a lot, but it's almost certain to use less than 50 characters. If you don't know that, generative AI tools can offer a lot of help on figuring out the maximum length of VARCHAR data types. So you can declare the data type of email attribute as VARCHAR 320 and the first name attribute as VARCHAR 50. It's worth noting that an accurate max length of VARCHAR can be more important than you think, and you shouldn't assign it arbitrarily. If it is too short, it will cut data off. If it is too big, it will make you waste space and money. Dropbox once saved hundreds of terabytes space by simply re-estimating the maximum length of columns in its database. A change as small as from VARCHAR 1024 to 80 may seem very trivial, but it can have a big impact if you are in a highly scalable environment. A rule of thumb of using VARCHAR is listed here. If the variable data length of a column is smaller than 1000, you should think about VARCHAR. If it goes beyond 1000, you should consider the next string data type that we are going to talk about, which is text. Text attributes store strings of variable lengths, and they almost have no maximum length, like the comment column example that you can see here on the screen. A comment can be very short, just 3 or 2 words, but it can also be something that goes beyond 10 different paragraphs and as long as an article. When should you consider using text as the data type for some columns? When you have large blocks of texts and its maximum length is difficult to estimate. Think about the review entity from the Sci-Fi Collective database. If you ever read some reviews on Amazon, they can be very verbose and long, but it can also be very short as a single word. Its maximum length cannot be easily estimated, so in this case, text is the best choice for its data type. A rule of thumb when it comes to text is when the data of a column may go beyond 1000 characters and its maximum length is hard to know. In such a case, you should consider using text as the data type for that column. In this video, we covered the most commonly used string data types. If you find this video helpful, give it a thumb up, subscribe, and leave your questions in the comments. I would love to hear what's working for you and what needs to change. This video is based on the book Grokking Relational Database Design, which dives deeper into database design using real-world examples to explain the concepts. You'll find the link to the book in the first comment.